Face to face, I found my pain beneath the lies and broken dreams. Lost the love I had in me. It tore me apart, fade away. I felt so lost, but I held on to what I had. For what it's worth, it will build low. Just know that you can, yes you can. There's life in love that you hold. Rise above and let it glow. Just know that it's never too late to make that change. Crash and burn, I found myself beneath the emptiness. Wanting more, I let it go. Holding on to love. Breaking through, I feel alive. For once in my life, I'ma live by the want to be all I can. Let the rest just crash and burn. Crash and burn. Oh, 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 let it crash and burn. This one for the person who feels alone. This one for the hero who has no home. This one for the one who live for hope. Changing better days. Pick your head up, keep on fighting, living, loving.
Hey, what's up YouTube? Today's video, I'm going to bring to you one of my favorite magic finding characters of all time. Well, I haven't really done that many magic finding characters, but I decided I wanted to try out Venom Gyre. And yeah, Venom Gyre is an amazing skill, and a lot of people always ask me, can Trinity be played with Venom Gyre? So I'm here to give you the answer, and I'm also going to answer, can you do magic find Venom Gyre without the 12-link claw? Because a lot of people don't have the 12-link claw. Well, the 12-link claw in Venom Gyre's case is actually a 10.5 link claw, and I'm going to go over why. So why do I like the skill so much? It is an amazing skill, and the quality gives you +1 chain, which is super, super helpful. So let's go straight into the build and see why are we actually playing Venom Gyre, right? Best clear skill I've ever played. Now, a lot of people wonder, why is the clear so good on the skill? It scales well with headhunter buffs. You get more projectile, and you get the Venom Gyre blades, and you can shoot it out. So that means you can actually do damage while moving throughout the map, right? And that's actually one of the hallmarks of good builds in terms of clear. So you have like Winter Orb and Blade Vortex in the past, where you could just run through the map and not have to worry about anything. And Venom Gyre kind of fits that narrative where you can just whirling blades throughout the map the whole time. And this build actually scales insanely well with headhunter buffs, right? Now, headhunter buffs are pretty much the core of the game. Like, if your build doesn't have a headhunter and you're doing juice maps, you're doing it wrong, right? You need to get your butt over to PoE trade and buy a headhunter or buy Inspire Learning. So there's something called integer value, which is when the integer, when you can't see the DPS anymore because the number is too high. I think that number is around like 26 million or something. But basically, Venom Gyre reaches this value where you can't see the DPS anymore on a tooltip, easier than any other build I've played, right? And that's kind of crazy because I played Lightning Strike before and I never really saw it reach infinity damage. So I'm not really sure what was going on. Let me know down in the comments down below if you have an idea, because when I was playing the Strength Stack and Chaos Damage variant, I figured it was because that there's a Chaos Damage buff that was really, really strong. But it turns out it's something to do with Venom Gyre, not really entirely sure what it is. So I also wanted to try out Trinity to see if it was viable or not, because this might allow some people to play like Trinity Venom Gyre who weren't able to afford the boots, right? Because the Trinity variant is going to be a lot more affordable at the upfront cost than strength stacking Venom Gyre, right? So can we actually use a 12-link claw for Venom Gyre? Well, it turns out there's no such thing as a 12-link claw for Venom Gyre since there's just not enough mods. And we can look at this. Let's bring it over, right? So any 12-link claw is going to be a Shaper or Elder item. So you have to go here and look, are there enough mods that benefit Venom Gyre? So we could go down the list of Shaper mods. And these mods, first one, so we're looking for the support gems. Added Fire doesn't really do anything. We don't really have that much flat fizz. So we are obviously going to take this level 20 elemental damage with attacks, then socket skills deal 40% more attack damage. But the problem with this is that you see there's no other third mod out of these that are actually beneficial for us. So that means that we can't use Ruthless, which is what's on the claw normally with the Lightning Strike and Frostblaze variant. We can't use melee fizz damage, and we can't use Brutality. So what that means is that we'll probably have to choose like a T1 lightning damage roll or T1 cold damage roll. So for the suffixes, you can use crit chance, which is pretty like mandatory, I think, in order to get high crit. And then you can also maim doesn't benefit us because that makes it mob take more physical damage, I think. And then of course you want to use increased crit damage. And normally you would use multi-strike for the claw, but it turns out that multi-strike doesn't benefit Venom Gyre either because it's not a melee attack. So the only other option is to use faster attacks, right? So this is actually the perfect Venom Gyre claw. So if you Chaos Orbit, it will take you roughly 242 million, not too bad. And if you lower like the lightning damage, so let's say you accept like a T2 lightning damage roll, it gets a lot better, right? 49 million. But it's basically the general gist of the claw is that it's not really a 12-link claw anymore. Faster attacks is not really a damage multiplier link, so it shouldn't really count. And this is pretty much just a flat damage mod, right? So that's why there's no such thing as a 12-link claw for Venom Gyre as there are for other builds, or like Lightning Strike. And you would definitely want to make the claw with the, what's it called? You want to make it with the flat T1 damage or LE damage. Now, if you look at this claw here, you have level 20 Ruthless, and this is the variant that I was currently using on my current character, and it does have faster attacks. So the suffixes are correct on this claw, but the prefixes, Ruthless does not do anything, and this should be switched out for a flat elemental damage roll instead. Now we have the actual Venom Gyre character we're using, and this character in the end ends up being very similar to yesterday's character with Frostblades. So it's pretty much the same exact variant. So I'm going to go over the character real fast. So we have the Golem Needle Claw. So this is different than the other 11 or 12-link claw I have, which is the Rage Barb Claw. And this one is different because it's multi-strike, but multi-strike is actually useless for Venom Gyre. So this is the other one. This one's actually a little bit cheaper on the mirror service. We're still using the Blizzard Crown with the 2 T1 rarities with the rarity crafted. We have using a Squire, and for the damage links, we're using Divergent Venom Gyre, Awaken Added Lightning, Awaken Added Cold, Nightblade, Divergent Inspiration, Awaken Fork, right? So we actually had to drop the item rarity link because Venom Gyre needs all the damage it can get. Now, it's too lazy to swap out the enchant, but you definitely don't want to use like Tribal Fury. You could probably find whatever is the highest damage node on the Amulet Annoy. It's probably going to be like Tenacity or Divine Judgment or something like that. But we are still using the 2 Ventors and the Greed's Embrace. Sedemas with LE weakness on hit. It's probably not a good idea to use LE weakness on hit because you really want Sniper's Mark with Venom Gyre. So I'd probably swap out this for like flat crit or something like that, or Frenzy attack speed, and then just use Sniper's Mark. So you don't want the Assassin's Mark to be overwritten by the elemental weakness. And we're still using a Headhunter. I never ended up buying the rarity Headhunter because no one really wants to buy my Mage Blood, right? And Gold Orb is still the same with the attack speed and cast speed if you killed recently. Now, the problem with like Venom Gyre is that Venom Gyre kind of benefits really well for Dying Sun. So potentially I might drop one of these flats for Dying Sun. Probably the Diamond Flat since we're using Secrets of Suffering still and we don't really need all that crit. So if you look at the tree is near identical. I did try to do 2 large clusters here, and I'm using Phantom Blades, Feat of Fury, Martial Prowess, and this one is Phantom Blade, Field of Fight, and Field of Fight does give you the mana leech that you do need, and still Mantra of Flames, and then this Lead by Example Warning Call medium cluster that we always use, and I did use 1 Megalomaniac with Phantom Blades and Gladiator's Fortitude. Now, the problem with this is you don't get Lead by Example, and Lead by Example gives you Onslaught, but Phantom Blades Lead by Example doesn't really exist anymore, especially with how popular the Venom Gyre build currently is. Now, you can also switch up the tree a little bit. I did some tinkering with it, and this is probably a better variant since you do get another attribute cluster for more Omniscience, and you also get Point Blank, and Point Blank is a pretty big deal for damage, right? So yeah, that makes a pretty big difference, but basically that's the general tree, and it's very similar to the old Lightning Strike tree. And we do use Secrets of Suffering for easy damage accessibility. And the character is still going to be around 80 quant and 350 rarity roughly. And yeah, so you do get 3 additional projectiles from the 3 Phantom Blades. We're using 2 on the large clusters and 1 on the Megalomaniac. So this is probably the question that most people will be asking is, can you do the magic finding without the 10.5 link claw? And it turns out the answer is yes, right? So if we look at this setup right here, so this is, I actually copied in a claw that is pretty high LE DPS, and this is just a normal, like perfect LE claw, right? And if you see the difference here, so this is with a rare shield with the Red Blade banner, and this is the claw. So we compare it to the Golem Needle, and we will see the damage is kind of nearly the same. And this is once we put on the Squire. When we put on the Squire, I did cheat it by putting a lot of damage links in. So let's see what's on the Squire. Nightblade, Inspiration, Awaken Fork. We need to uncheck Nightblade, Awaken Fork, and then we need to take out probably Crit Strikes. This is not really doing anything. And I think we need to take out Elemental damage with attacks, right? So this is like, it's like a little bit worse damage for sure, but it's really not like unplayable if you don't have the 10.5 link claw or whatever. And there's more than fine the damage, because I think in my video right now that you see in the highlights earlier, it's around 5.5 million damage. So I think it's actually slightly higher. The damage with the 10.5 link claw is actually slightly higher. The perfect elemental claw is close, but not really close enough. So what I wrote here is kind of a wrong, because I didn't test it out fully, right? But there's probably some other links you could try tinkering around with. But you can see here that once you use the 10.5 link claw, or you switch it over to the Red Blade banner, you give it the links, it is roughly around the same with the 6 link. Not completely the same, but it is close enough that it is playable, right? And the 11.5 link claw would probably be a lot better if it was made with T1 elemental damage. So if we did in fact replace this Ruthless with T1 lightning damage, the build would do a lot more damage, right? Now, if you're bored with Lightning Strike and you want to change of place, the Venom Gyre is great since the map clear is so amazing and you wanted to try out some magic fun. And Lightning Strike does feel awful to play on Promenade. So even if Lightning Strike has a lot more damage, it's going to feel a lot worse to play than Venom Gyre, especially on Promenade. And your damage is pretty much going to be carried with Shrine buffs and Headhunter buffs anyhow. So make sure to try it out if you want to try out Venom Gyre without fully investing into a Strength Stacker, right? So what are the conclusions that we can draw? I can safely say that even with the 11.5 link claw, with the perfect elemental damage mod, Strength Stacking variant is still miles better on Venom Gyre, and that's just because Strength Stacking is kind of broken right now, especially with the rare helmet that gives you like max crit and max accuracy. Obviously, this build can be min-maxed a lot more, and the damage would probably reach like 30-40 mil on this if you actually had a full tree and gear actually dedicated for damage rather than all of this troll stuff that I have currently on my body. And I'm also not using any forbidden jewels at the moment because they're pretty hard to buy. Like I tried to buy a forbidden jewel with Rite of Ruin and it just doesn't exist anymore. Not really sure why, but maybe it's the player base dying a little bit. But it seems like that stuff is going to be really hard to buy in the future. I will be playing BPL for the next 2 days. This is my team. If anyone's wondering, I'm playing ARCHNEMESIS. So BPL is like a group find event where people race to collect uniques and race to kill bosses. And I'm going to be playing Spectral Helix Deadeye into Omniscience Tornado Shot Deadeye. The reason being is that the BPL limits you to certain ascendancies, and these are my ascendancies that I can currently play. So Cultist, Slayer, Hierophant, Ascendant, Deadeye, Gladiator, Juggernaut. And after that, since I have the Deadeye leveled up, I'll probably try Magic Find with Tornado Shot Deadeye before I stop the Magic Find journey. And if hopefully I find a Mage Blood by then, and then I'm going to transition to a Cast on Crit Ice Nova character, right? And one last thing, Tower is terrible compared to Promenade. It feels really bad to RNG in Tower, and it also doesn't have the Wretched card that drops anymore, while Promenade has like consistent cards with Dying Anguish and Patient, right? So if you're trying to Magic Find, I would highly recommend Promenade over Tower as long as your build's mechanics can handle all of the stairs and terrain differences. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more Meters, Exalts, and Mage Bloods than me, and be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!